Live is Contra Costa County Supervisor John Gioia. And Supervisor Gioia, thank you so much for joining us this morning. For the last hour, we've had a live feed of a lot of East Bay leaders talking about what's been happening this morning and giving us their reaction and response. And we'd like to invite you to do the same.
Well, first, thanks for covering these very important events. And I have been watching the comments of my colleagues in Alameda County. And I want to first start by saying that here in Contra Costa County to the north, we are prepared to support our hardworking immigrant families. And in Contra Costa, nearly 30% of our county residents are immigrants. And they make up about 35% of our small businesses. They contribute to our economy, they pay taxes, they're part of our civic and cultural life, and we are prepared to support them. I'm myself the son of an immigrant. My son's mother is an immigrant. I mean, that's who we are, right, as a community. And earlier this year, we increased funding for our rapid response program, which is called Stand Together Contra Costa, which is run through our public defender's office. And that office is prepared, working with local community-based organizations, to provide resources, support, and if needed, legal help to families at risk of being snatched by ICE or at risk of deportation. I'll give the hotline number, which is 925-900-5151. They've been working with our nonprofit partners to be out at certain locations, including Home Depots, to monitor for any potential ICE activity. I think it's so important at this time to show that we have resources to help our immigrant community. Let me say, I was out last weekend at some of the protests that occurred in Contra Costa, and it's just very reassuring to see so many residents of all cultures, of all ages, to speak out to protect our democracy, to protect our Constitution, to protect our immigrant families, and they did it peacefully. And I think we need to continue to encourage our residents to stand up and be peaceful in their protests. We don't want to play into a narrative that the Trump administration has that we're not peaceful, because we are. And we all know, we've seen this, that a militarized federal deployment does not make our communities safer. It creates distrust of government. It fosters fear. It undermines local authority. And frankly, what we're most concerned about with the federal shutdown now in its fourth week.
And speaking of that, are you all encouraged by what President Trump had to say this morning post his conversation last night with San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie, saying that he was calling off plans to have a big federal enforcement immigration surge that was planned for this Saturday, apparently, and he said he's called that off?
Well, that's in the short term sounds like good news, but we've seen this before. He changes his mind. So whatever he says, we are prepared in Contra Costa with Stand Together to really respond and react if there is a deployment. We know that there's been a deployment of federal agents on Coast Guard Island in Alameda County. We haven't heard any deployments in Contra Costa at this time. But, you know, I don't think we can take solace in these sort of mercurial announcements that President Trump makes. We need to remain vigilant and prepared. And yes, that seems like good short-term news. But our residents, many of them live in fear. What we hear is that many residents, including legal immigrants and legal residents in our county, are often concerned and fearful of coming and receiving county services that they are entitled to, whether it's health care, whether it's preschool Head Start, whether it's food services and other social services. We see and hear that fear. And I think that is much of the damage that's being done here. Even when there's a threat of deployment, this impacts all of our residents.
So last night, as Daria mentioned, San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie had the ear of the president, and apparently his argument that San Francisco's on the rise, it's turning around, tourism's coming back, crime is going down, seemed to be the winning argument. If you had the president's ear, if he's watching any of this coverage, what would you like him or everybody else in the country to know about the Bay Area right now?
Well, two things. First, reopen the federal government because that's their job. And our residents, these are U.S. citizens and legal residents, depend upon the services of the federal government. And everyone is being impacted by this closure. And people could go hungry if the government doesn't reopen here this week. And that, look, we have a safe community. Crime has decreased in our community. We don't need federal forces to make our community safer. It does the opposite because of the fear and distrust. We have great local law enforcement, from the sheriff's department to local police departments. They keep us safe. They're prepared. Our first responders. That's who we've relied on, and that's who we will continue to rely on. We don't need untrained federal forces who, frankly, don't have experience in crowd control. I mean, we've heard from local law enforcement across the state that when federal agents come in, they don't have the same training that local police departments and sheriff deputies have, which is to understand how to work with community, how to work with crowd control. So the opposite can often happen, as we've seen in Los Angeles, where their lack of training to work with crowds causes there to be more potential violence and negative reactions. So look, we want to take care of all our residents, and our message to President Trump is, and Congress is, reopen the federal government. Let us continue to handle public safety, which we're able to do in the Bay Area safely.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate that, and thanks for talking to us, Representative Gioia, this morning, talking about what's been going on with the federal government shutdown, with Trump saying he was going to send in the Guard, then saying he wasn't going to send in the Guard, and now a protest continuing right now at Coast Guard Island.